All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective for this Thursday, March 4th. We are excited to have everybody with us today. I am Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services for the Commerce Authority. We would like to start by first thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these bootcamp sessions without them, without their time, their effort, their expertise. We appreciate it very much. So the Small Business Bootcamp is designed to help small businesses of 20 employees or less emerge from the COVID crisis and return stronger than ever. However, it is a great resource and tool for all businesses, and we welcome all businesses to be on here. It is a statewide initiative supported by all our community partners. And besides being just a boot camp, it is a resource collective, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. So the Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective website is one of those websites that I feel is a great one to favorite, put in your bookmark bar on your web browser so you can access it often. On there, you can have the links to register for upcoming sessions. You have a link to the Resource Collective, and then what we have done is all of our previous sessions, we recorded them and made them available to review on this website as well under the archive at the bottom of the page. And you can go through, we have them listed by each week, and you can go back and review any of the sessions, watch the videos, or review just the content that they shared. But we've got all the information from those different sessions available, easy access on that archive. On the Resource Collective, we have a lot of tools and resources provided by our community partners to help small businesses. This is just a sample listing of some of the guides and resources available. You can see we've got guides for unemployment insurance, sorry about that. Reopening restaurants, we've got construction, manufacturing, cosmetology, et cetera. A ton of different pieces of information that can help small businesses during this time. With that, I'd like to do some updates at this point and share some key things that are available, links and other things for small businesses. First, there's been some updates to the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, frequently asked questions. So we have that link here for you if you are a venue that falls in that program. Also, yesterday, we had a PPP session relating to the PPP rule changes that came down last week and some of that information. And of course, as soon as we finished the boot camp a little later in the day, the SBA added some additional updates to that. So we have the link for the frequently asked questions found on the Treasury's homepage that gets in all the details of those updates. Additionally, we've got the PPP lender list. If you're still looking to get a first draw or second draw PPP loan, the lender list has all the lenders that the SBA has been in contact with in Arizona to help small businesses with those PPP loans. And then the last link is the SBA's COVID-19 relief options page. It is another great page to highlight or favorite so you can have easy access to it. It has information and links to all the main programs that they have, the EIDL, PPP, the shuttered venue, the debt relief, and others. And then finally, we want to share with everyone, we have a bootcamp special session on the employee retention credit on Tuesday, March 10th at 9 a.m. I'm sorry, Wednesday, March 10th. There's a little typo there. It's Wednesday's session at 9 a.m. That session is going to talk about that employee retention credit, and for businesses that qualify, it can be up to $19,000 per employee that you can get in credit. It is a big deal that hasn't been talked about much. And so we want to make sure we're sharing that information with everybody so all the Arizona businesses can take advantage of that federal program. So another way to stay informed about all the going-ons with the businesses right now is through our COVID-19 Arizona Business Resource page. You can find that on our homepage with a big blue ribbon across the top of our homepage, or you can go to azcommerce.com/COVID-19 And we have information on business guidance, financial resources, and many other great things on that page. And we constantly update it, the information, as we have new information available to us. Some of the ACA programs that small businesses can leverage during this time is our small business services. We can help connect or navigate through the SBA, working with the SBDC or SCORE, navigate local banking contacts and other programs throughout the state. Our workforce division can help small businesses looking to hire employees with some of the programs they have, or even upskill their employees. And our Arizona Manufacturing Extension Partnership can help manufacturers throughout the state with their needs during this time. Additionally, if you're looking to start a small business, start something on your own, or start a side gig, or expand your business into new product lines and industries, our small business checklist is an online interactive resource that can help small businesses identify the licensing, registration, and compliance needs at the local, state, and federal levels. It is a great resource. You can find that at azcommerce.com/smallbiz. And with that, our last website we like to mention is our state's COVID-19 information and resource page. This is everything COVID-19 related, not just business. And it is arizonatogether.org. It is another website full of a lot of great information. So with that, we want to look at next week's sessions real quick. On Tuesday, March 9th, we have How Going Green Can Financially Help Your Business. I'm really looking forward to this one. We've got Local First Statewide Sustainability Director presenting with us. And in past businesses I've seen, we've done stuff on this where, you know, doing some green, eco-friendly things can save you money in your business. So I'm really excited for it. It's going to be a great session. Also on Wednesday, as I mentioned, we have our special session on the employee retention credit. And then on Thursday, we have a great session from Steve Feld from SCORE on key business takeaways from 2021 that can help you succeed in key business takeaways from 2020, excuse me, that can help you succeed in 2021. He actually wrote an article on this content, and I really like the article, invited him to come speak about it with us. It should be a phenomenal session, so we're looking forward to it. With that, we want to introduce today's speaker, Cerila, and I cannot pronounce Cerila's last name. I'm gonna butcher it.
Gailliard.
I'll let her share that with us. I apologize for not being better on that. But Cerila is a project management professional, and she's got a great presentation for us today. So Cerila, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you and let you get started.
All right. I'm going to share my screen. Let me hit it one more time. All right, there we go. All right. Well, again, my name is Cerila Gailliard, and I'd like to thank ACA for inviting me to talk about my favorite subject, which is project management. I am all things project management. I own my own company, and that's what we do is project management, all aspects of project management, from doing projects to documentation to training. And one of the things that I really like to do is get out in the community and talk about project management to businesses so that they understand how project management can really help their business grow and how it can help them expand as well. So today, we're not going to talk about the full project management methodology or process, because that would be a little bit boring. And we need more time to do that. But we're going to just focus really on today about planning. So today's title is called Implementing Project Plans to Streamline Success. So I want to kind of go through what is planning, give you the process of planning, give you some tips and best practices so that it can help you with the projects that you have going on. Because what I'm realizing is businesses are doing three things in today's environment. They're either pivoting, So they're either changing services or upgrading services or going in a new direction as far as services or products. They're either reorganizing their businesses, looking at the business, looking at the org chart, see where they can be more efficient in their business processes and the resources they have. And then the third thing that I know that businesses are doing, they're expanding their businesses. So if they're in the private sector, they're trying to move into the public sector. If they're in the public sector or the private sector, they're trying to move into expanding and moving their services or products overseas. Now, all three of them have the same thing in common. They got projects coming out of each of those different things. Either if you're pivoting, you're going to have projects coming out of there. If you're reorganizing, you're going to have projects coming out of there. And then if you're expanding into other countries, you're going to have projects come out of there as well. So what I'm here to do is trying to give you some, like I said, best tips and practices, and also some knowledge on parts of project management, which is planning, so that, again, I want you to be successful. I want you to go out there and get those projects and be successful, and making sure that you're using all of your resources, your costs, your technology, your time in an efficient manner. Okay, so let's get down to what we're doing here, which is, what is the purpose of planning? The purpose of planning is to provide a roadmap to your success. The key word is being roadmap. Okay, if you don't have a plan, you don't know where you're going. So a roadmap tells you four things I have here: where you were, so those tasks of what's already been done; where you are currently, what tasks that you are working on currently; where are you going? Those are those tasks that are out in the future. You want to look at those to see, okay, this is what's coming up. This is, these are the things that I have to do. And the last thing it tells you, when you have arrived. When is the project done? If you don't have a plan, how do you know any of this, where you're going, where you were, where you are, where you're going, and when you have arrived? That's why it's so important to have a plan in place, so that when you are bringing those projects in, you know all of these four things, and you feel confident in implementing your project, doing those tasks, completing those tasks, making sure all the resources are there. Okay. So let's talk about this. I found this quote online. It's called "Proper planning prevents poor performance." Again, proper planning prevents poor performance. One of the things I hear from business owners all the time is, I just feel overwhelmed. I don't have time to plan. But you have to have a viable plan if you want to be successful at the end of your project. And the key word there is being viable. Okay, you just don't want to throw a plan together and then say, "Yep, I got a plan." But what happens is, even though you have a plan, people don't look at the plan. You have a plan, and then you put it on the shelf. And it's like, okay, why did you plan and you're not looking at what you're doing, looking at the plan and looking at the resources and looking at the tasks and looking at things that are coming on. So proper planning prevents poor performance. And what I want to do is look at these different percentages, because project management, the Project Management Institute, which governs the certification of project management, they always come out with different stats about project management in different businesses. So they do this big survey, and then they distribute it out to what's going on in project management. So let's look at 58%. 58% of businesses do not fully understand the value of project management. So even though project management, everybody knows about project management, either their clients are using project management, they probably have friends or coworkers or things like that that are in doing different projects or on different projects, or they're leading different projects. But with all of that, businesses still don't understand the value of project management. And that's why I do these different types of workshops, because I want to make sure you understand why project management is important, what value it brings into your business, and then also educating businesses on the different aspects of project management. You know, project management can be very overwhelming to businesses. And this is why I do what I do, is to kind of break those concepts down, tell you about different tools and techniques you can use in your business, because you can choose different tools and techniques. You don't have to use the full gambit of project management, but it's there for you. And then what you do is you take project management and you customize it for your business. Okay, so let me say that again. You take it and you customize it for your business. I can tell you I've worked with big companies, small companies, mid-sized companies. Everybody does project management different. Okay, the thing is that they have the structure in place. They understand the different tools and techniques that you can use in project management, but they take what they need and they customize it just for their businesses. Okay. Here's another percentage. 70% of businesses have at least one project failure in the last 12 months. That's a big number. If you have one project that you consider a failure, think about all the costs that you put into it. Think about all the resources, the time that you spent on it, the technology that you spent on that project, only for it to fail. And that's not good, especially in this type of environment where businesses are trying to ensure that whatever they do, they're doing it in an efficient manner, okay? Because we don't have, at least I don't have, unlimited resources. I don't have unlimited money. I don't have unlimited time. I don't have unlimited resources. So everything that I have in my business, I want to make sure that I'm doing it in an efficient manner, okay? Let's look at 41%. 41% of businesses reported poor project performance. Okay, going back to my quote here, proper planning prevents poor performance. If 41% of businesses are stating that they have reported poor project performance, that's again affecting those that your resources, your time, your money, your resources, that comes into play, and plus your clients as well. I mean, if you have a project and it's a poor performance project, do you really think your clients want to come back and work with you again? So it affects everything in your business. Here's another stat for you. 80% of employees spent half their time doing rework, which means to me, the task wasn't clear enough. Okay, that's 80%. That's a huge number. So which means to me as well, you're doubling your time, you're doubling your schedule because you're doing rework. Okay, 31% of project failure is due to communication. Most people don't understand that communication is part of planning. And we're going to go through a few slides talking about what's in a plan. It's not just a project plan. There are other factors that you have to plan for. But 31% of projects fail due to a lack of communication on their project. And here's another one. 12% of projects fail due to unclear tasks, which goes back to my 80% of rework, okay? So when you're thinking about planning, think about proper planning prevents poor performance. If you do it correctly, you'll be successful. However, if you don't do it successfully and plan correctly, whatever that is in your business, because every business is different, you're going to look at having poor performance in your projects. So what are the benefits of planning? Number one, it's going to save you on cost. 2, resources. 3, time. And 4, technology. The benefits of planning goes back to, I would say, go back to what we call the initiation phase, which is where you start your project. It validates that contract that you sign that's list out all of those different requirements, all of those different objectives, the cost, whatever it is. If it's a contract, if it's a request for a proposal, planning is going to validate that. Okay, and here's why. For instance, I was working on a project and part of the contract is stated, well, you know, we're going to have a cost of $50,000 for this whole project. When I started planning things out, looking at the scopes, looking at the different requirements on the project itself, when I started planning it out, guess what? The cost had doubled. It went from 50,000 to 100,000, which means what they planned for wasn't correctly. It was not done correctly, or they miscalculated. Okay. So plan is going to validate those costs. Now, that situation, they had two choices. They can either give me the $50,000, the extra $50,000, so that I have enough money to do the plan properly and do the project properly, or they can take and look at the scope and the requirements and say, you know what, let's take these out so it can fit their budget. Okay. This type of situation happens all the time, right? So when you're looking at the benefits of planning, not only is this cost, resource, and time and technology, but it's going to validate that contract, that RFP that you sign, and say, it's either going to say, yes, you did a good job, or no, something went wrong, either in cost, the resources, the time, or the technology that you have. And this is why planning is so important, because you don't want to be in a project where you know fully well your cost, your resources, and your time is not going to be correct, and it's not really going to make you successful because you don't have the right budget, you don't have the right resources, and you don't have the right time. It's going to set you up for failure. So that's why, another reason why planning is so important when you're talking about projects. So this here is the proper project management process flow. So when I got certified as a certified project manager through the Project Management Institute, this is what I get trained on. This is the process. Now it looks very simple, but within these different boxes, there's different tools and techniques that you can use to make sure that each phase is done properly. So let me just kind of go through this real quick with you so that you can understand at least the process. I teach this in a different class where we actually go through each of these phases. That's another 2-hour, 3-hour class. But let me kind of go through the process with you as far as project management. So phase 1 is what we call initiate or initiating. The goal of that phase is to define the goal. So that could either be in your contract, it could be in your RFP. If you don't have any of those things, we actually create what we call a project charter. Phase 1 is all about understanding the project itself. What are those goals? What's in scope? What's out of scope? What are those requirements? What are those initial risks that's on there? What's the initial timeline? What's the initial the budget? What are those initial resources? That phase in that document becomes the foundation for the rest of the project, because when you take that document, you're using that document to go to the next phase, which is the planning phase or the plan phase. And the phase the objective for that is to plan the work. Okay, so you go from initiate to plan the work. And this is what we're going to focus on today. The next phase is to execute the plan. You plan, you execute the plan. Let me say that again. You plan, you execute the plan. How easy is that? but it's such a foreign concept to a lot of people because they jump over planning and they go from phase 1 to phase 3 with no planning in between. And I'm going to show you that in my next chart. After you execute, you monitor and control. This is where the management piece of it. This is where you're looking at the plan, you're looking at what's being executed, and you're looking for any variance. You're looking for any problems to solve so that the plan is still moving, right? And that the tasks and everything on that plan is being executed based on the plan, okay? So phase 4, what we call monitor and control, or manage and control. You control the project. You make sure that if anything is going outside that project, you pull it in, you figure it out, you resolve those issues so you can get back on track and then continue to execute. So that's what we call check the work. And then the last phase is what we call close. Now you think, well, closing or closing, where you close the project, it's just, okay, we're done, we just close the project. But there is some tasks in that closing phase that you will want to make sure that is done prior to closing out the project, which is one of the things is making sure that you completed all of the tasks that's on the project. You don't want to close out a project and realize, oops, we forgot to do something, okay? That does happen. Okay, so that is what we call the project management process flow map, or the 5 phases of project management. Okay, so here is what I call current state project management process flow, and this is what I deal with clients. So as you can see, phase 1 is to initiate. They define the goal, they got the contract, they sign it, great. What's missing? The plan. They will jump from initiate right into executing. And then when I come in, and because usually when they bring me in, the projects are going sideways. First thing I ask for is, your foundational document, your contract, your RFP, or if you did a project charter. Second thing I'm going to ask for is, where's your plan? Usually they don't have a plan. Usually they tell me, yeah, we have the document, the foundational document, but we started executing. Okay, so my question to the business owner is, what are you executing if you don't have a plan? And we're going to get to what they usually use for a plan. Okay, so they skip planning to go right into executing. And then they feel overwhelmed in phase 4 because they can't manage the project. How are you going to manage a project if you don't have a plan? And this is where they get into feeling overwhelmed. They don't know what the resources are doing. They don't know what their consultants are doing. They don't know when materials are coming in. Okay, so this is where the kind of phase 4 is a kind of frustrating phase, I like to call it. Okay, and then phase 5, they try to close their project, but by that time, they're probably over budget. The timelines have already doubled or been pushed back so many times because they're trying to figure out what they need to do, okay? So this is what I call the current state, because phase 2 is not done. And when phase 2 is not done properly, it affects all the different phases on a project, okay? So what did they use in phase 2 as a plan? I came up with this quote, and it says, a to-do list is not a project plan. So in that current state, that phase 2 is really, they're managing a to-do list. It's not a plan, it's a to-do list. Now, I have a to-do list. I sometimes have a daily to-do list. Sometimes on Sunday, I sit down and I have a weekly to-do list. A to-do list is not a project plan, okay? So let's go back to what I talked about at the beginning of the purpose of a plan. A to-do list is not going to tell you where what tasks were done in the past, okay? A to-do list is not going to tell you where you're at right now. A to-do list is not going to tell you what tasks are coming up in the future. And a to-do list is not going to tell you when you have arrived, which means when the project is done. Okay. When you have a to-do list, think about your to-do list that you have, or if you do a to-do list or a weekly to-do list, however you want to do it. My to-do list have different things on there. You know, I could be picking up laundry, I could be paying a certain bill, you know, then I'll turn back around and say, oh yeah, I got to talk to, you know, Patty, because I have to see, you know, where she's at with this with this task. You know, I have to follow up on this issue. If you look at your to-do list, it has random type of tasks on there. It has nothing to do with your project that you're working on. Okay. So if you get anything out of here, out of this workshop, is please do not do a to-do list and then think it's your project plan. I was talking to a person, a potential client of mine on last Friday, and he was talking about this. He has a to-do list. And he was feeling overwhelmed because he couldn't manage his consultants. He doesn't have any employees. So he was managing his consultants through a to-do list. He was getting upset because, you know, the consultants didn't know what the consultant was not finishing tasks on time. And the first thing I said was, do you have a plan? Do they even know when they're supposed to, you know, get things done? Do they understand the overall project itself? And he was like, no, I just, you know, tell them and I send them an email and I expected to get it done. And, you know, I try to follow up, but, you know, they don't talk to me, or he can't get in touch with them. Okay. That's what a to-do list is going to do for you. Okay. So I don't want you feeling overwhelmed. I don't want you to feel like you can't manage the project. But going back to what I said is proper planning prevents poor performance. If you want to prevent poor performance, you need to have a viable plan. And like I said, keyword being viable. Okay. It's got to be something that you can implement, not just throwing tasks and stuff on a list with some, you know, dates that you know that you're not going to be able to complete, and you know your resources, you're not sure what they're doing and who's supposed to be doing what. So you want to make sure you have a viable project plan that you can implement, so that when you have a plan, you execute the plan. That means you have to look at the plan, not just do a plan and then, you know, put it on your desk and be like, okay, I'm not going to look at that, and then turn around and do a to-do list and use that as your project plan. Okay. So we don't want to do that. So planning could be very overwhelming, you know, it could take some time. So what I did here is I broke up planning into 3 different phases so that we can understand what is planning and what are some of the things that are done in the planning phase. So number 1 is plan the work. Number 2 is compose the plan. And then number 3 is to document the plan. So I'm going to talk about all 3 of these different, I don't want to say phases, but these are the components that make up planning. So plan the work. First, you have to understand the project. As I stated before, you usually have your contract, or if you have an RFP or something, if you did a project charter, whatever that is, a business case, you need to read those documents to understand the project and understand the why, and understand all the things that are listed for that project that you're doing. Because once you understand the project, you can plan better, okay? The next thing as part of plan the work is research similar projects. The person I was talking to on Friday, he does the same types of projects over and over and over again. My suggestion is you pull the last 3 projects and look at those projects just to kind of give you an idea how to do this project itself, okay? Another thing is look at the lessons learned. If you are doing lessons learned or surveys, read those lessons learned to see exactly what went well in those projects, what actually went wrong, because you want to make sure you understand what went wrong so that in your current project you can account for that and make sure that you don't make the same mistakes. You can also look at the resources they use, right? The timeline that they use as well. One of the things about this part of plan the work, you can really streamline your project planning in this phase. Like I said, if you're doing the same type of work, you can set up templates for that particular projects, right? Let's just say you're doing a finance project and you do these type of finance projects all the time. Well, it will make sense to streamline it because you know those tasks you're going to need those tasks for every project, right? So you can take that and streamline and make it a template so that, again, you're not spending a lot of time in this, planning phase. So there's certain things that you can do. You can template not just the project plan, but you can also template some of the communication plan, the quality plans. You can use all of that. You may have to make some changes here and there, but if you streamline that process, you can also have less time to actually start planning your project as you go forward. Again, a lot of the complaints I get business owners are like, I don't have time to plan. I got like 50 million things to do. And I understand that too. I have 50 million things to do. However, I have set up a process for certain projects. If I'm getting the same type of projects, I already have the project plan. I know the tasks that needs to be done. I know who needs to do it. Only thing I'm doing is changing the dates. Boom, I got my project right there. May take me, 8 hours or something like that. Okay. So that's one of the ways you can streamline your process is to have those templates ready for certain types of projects that you do over and over and over again. Also, I wanted to let everybody know that planning is a team effort. It's not just one person planning, okay? Even if you're working with consultants, let's just say you're working with IT consultants and you have a project. Well, if there's an IT portion of it, then that IT consultant should be able to tell you, here, these are the tasks that needs to get done. This is how long it's going to take me. Here's who's going to do it. You take all that information, you put it into your project plan. Okay. So remember, planning is just not one person's doing it. You might be leading the project plan. Okay. But bring your team into it. Ask them what tasks are needed on this project. Ask them how long it's going to take. Ask them who can actually do it, who has the time to do it. Okay. So again, planning, team effort, don't do it by yourself so that you won't feel overwhelmed and feel like you don't have the efficient time to actually plan a project. So understand the project, research similar projects that you've done, make sure you read the lessons learned, and then make sure you bring a team around you to help plan. Okay. The next component of planning is compose the plan, which is phase 2 planning, which is the objective is to create the plan. Now, when we're talking about planning, most are project plans. Most people understand project plans being a, task, when it starts, when it is done, the resources, and when it's complete. And yes, that is part of it. So when we're talking about that and creating a project plan, we're usually talking about defining the scope, collecting the requirements, and then moving down into activities, requirement, I won't do that right now, but requirement matrix is just part of the scope management plan, making sure that in your project plan, you're planning for all of those different types of requirements that you have on the project, the budget. Everybody understands that you have to have a budget, and that's part of the project plan. Everybody understands that the human resource plan, that you need to understand who is doing the task, right? Whether it's your internal team, your external, which is your client, and then if you're bringing in vendors or consultants. Everybody understands that, okay? And understand who is doing the task at hand. And then you have the schedule management plan, right? Times, the task, when a task needs to be done. I can't do this task until this task is complete. And then that develops the project plan. So I think everybody understands that piece of it. However, planning is just not the project plan. There's other things that you need to plan for. One of those things is what we call the project quality plan. These are the metrics that you need to define in the planning phase. How are you going to know if you're over budget or under budget, or you're just right? How are you going to know if your schedule is unscheduled, or it's taking too much time, or that your schedule is actually better than what you planned for, right? You have to understand what those project metrics are. Also, you may have other metrics that you want to measure in your plan that may be that may be worth tracking, because it's affecting one piece of your business that is very critical, right? So you may have a project that, let's say, I don't know, I used to work for Macy's, and I used to be in their call center. I remember doing a project where they were upgrading their software that measure call time, right? So one of the metrics that we had to measure on a weekly basis is their call time, because their call time may have been, let's say, 85%. Well, since our project was affecting that piece of their business, we had to make sure that our project was not interfering in that 85% call time. So we measure that on a weekly basis, okay? So if you have other things that you need to measure to make sure that it doesn't affect your critical processes, you want to make sure that that's in your quality plan, and that you are looking at that on a regular basis. Communication plan. Going back to my stats earlier on, what I was talking about, the communication plan is, I think it was 31% of a project failed due to communication. You have to set up a communication plan. What does that look like? What is the communication plan for the project? How are you going to communicate with your internal team? How are you going to communicate with your client? And how are you going to communicate with your vendors and consultants? What does that look like? Because at the end of the day, everybody should be moving together on the project, okay? All the information that you are distributing to these different teams, internal, external, vendor, consult, they may be different, but they should be saying the same thing. A client should not have different information than your internal team. And everybody doesn't know where they're going because the information is not clear. So develop a communication plan, whether that is, I'm going to send a report out on this date. I'm going to update my project plan every Friday. The dashboard is going to be updated every Tuesday. We're going to have a meeting internally, every Wednesday for 30 minutes, whatever that is. Develop that communication plan, and then make sure that everybody understands what is the communication for that project, okay? You get this wrong, again, it could lead to project failure, because then what you'll have is everybody doing what they want to do on the project because they don't really understand what's going on in the project. So it's like, okay, I'll just do this. Sounds good, right? Another plan that you want to do is a risk management plan. Usually risks are in the contract or the RFPs or on the project charter, which talks about some of the risks on a project. I would tell you that every project has a risk or has some type of risk. It may not be, you may not have 10 risks, right? You may have one, but you need to understand what those risks are. You need to identify them. You need to rank them. You need to have a risk response. You need to make sure that you identify an owner just in case that risk does show up on your project, okay? And then also what I like to do for this risk management plan is tie it back to a task on the project, okay? So that you understand, okay, this task right here has a risk assigned to it or a potential risk, so that you understand you're looking and not just at the task being done, but making sure that risk doesn't show up on your project, okay? And then don't forget, risks have, sometimes some risks have costs related to it, which goes back to your budget. So now if the budget consists of all of the, costs, resources, whatever materials that you have, but also you should put in, if you have a risk that has a cost to it, you want to add that to the budget as well, because that becomes the budget for the overall project. And you need to be able to account for that. So when you're talking about risks, one of the things I didn't say is that it's risks that are known risks, not unknown risks, like, the thing in Texas, right? That was like environmental unknown risk. But for the risk management plan, you want to make sure you understand what those known risks are, so that if a risk does show up on your project, well, you already know what your response is going to be. You implement the response and you keep it rolling. How easy is that? Okay. And then also the procurement plan, that kind of goes back to the human resource plan. The resources, if you're bringing resources or consultants or vendors outside, you want to make sure you account for that in a human resource plan. And then if there's any materials in there as well, but that's all part of the human resource plan and all part of the project plan itself. And then you have the stakeholder plan. You want to make sure that you identify those individuals who are impacted by the project. I remember working on a project and we were implementing SAP, and we forgot to bring in a department into the project plan that was affected by the SAP, and he was not happy. And he had a right to be not happy because it was affecting his department. So make sure you understand those stakeholders are, bring them into the project, even if, sometimes they may not have a direct link to the project, but they want to be kept in the know. It's okay, bring them in so that you can make sure that they understand what's going on in the project. If they have any feedback or any suggestions or any problems, you want to make sure that they are heard and that they understand what's going on in the project plan, which goes back to your communication plan as well. And then also the internal team, and then your clients as well. They all can be potential stakeholders. Then the next thing that you have to plan for is change management. I have not been on a project that has not had any changes. There's always changes going on. However, you have to have a process in place to take that change, bring that change into the plan so that you can understand, does this change really need to happen? How is it going to affect my project? Is it going to increase my cost? Is it going to increase my timeline? Is it going to increase the budget? Okay. So when you're talking about change, you want to make sure that you document the change. Well, let me just kind of go back. You want to make sure you call out the change, okay? Because sometimes changes can be very subtle and you don't realize it's actually a change. That's why going back to my requirements plan, which is, having those requirements matrix there, to understand what those requirements are so that you can always reference back when there's a change going on in your project. When I have a meeting, especially with a client, first thing I do is bring up the project plan. The next thing I have is my requirements matrix, because I want to make sure that in this meeting, if they talk about a change, I can reference back to that requirement and say, okay, this is a requirement. Are you asking this? Are you asking to change this? Okay. I don't say yes right away. First thing I do is document it. Document the change and who's requesting the change of whatever requirement that's on your project. Second thing I'm going to do is analyze the change. How is it going to affect the budget, the timeline, and my resources? Then I take all that information and I give it to that person that is asking for the change and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. There's not going to be no effect. So there's no effect on the project. You want to still approve it? Or if there's going to be an effect on your cost, your time, or your budget, are you willing to, let's just say, increase the timeline by 2 weeks? Are you willing to provide, the extra budget? Maybe it's 25,000 to the project. Are you willing to do that? And then that's when you seek the approval, get the approval. If you do get an approval, and then you update all the documentation. Okay. And then the last plan is the documentation plan, which is how are we going to track the project? What tools are we going to track the project with? When I first started doing project management, we tracked our project management plans through Excel. Everybody was doing Excel, but now you have so many different tools out there that you can use that is automated and that is more collaborative to track your project. So you need to understand, what am I going to use? What software, what tools, what collaboration tools I'm going to use on this project. Then you want to understand the documentation storage. Now, there are some project management tools out there where you can store all the project management documents on that software. But if that's not where you want it to be, then you need to understand what is that solution going to be, and then who's going to have access to it. And then at the end of your project, this is where documentation archive comes into play. Where are you going to store all these documents and plans? Where are you going to store them all? So you want to make sure you have a updated plan that talks about the documentation of the project, because documentation of a project is part of your communication plan as well, right? If I can't find where the project plan is, then how do I know, if as a person or resource that's on my project, how I'm going to figure out what I need to do? Okay, so documentation, plan, communication, they all go together. So this is the total plan when it talks about planning for your project. Because once you have all this documentation together, the next thing you want to do is set up a kickoff meeting with the internal team, with your client, your external team, and your vendors and your consultants, and you lay out the plan. Why do we do this? Number one, it helps for the team to understand the project. This is what we're going to do. These are the tasks that we're going to implement. This is the timeline. It gives them also a chance to make changes to the project plan as well. It gives them that opportunity, because we all want feedback, right? To make sure, again, we have a viable plan going into executing. We want to make sure we get the buy-in from everybody about, yes, I like the plan, here are some changes that we need to do with the plan, but all in all, yes, I like the plan. This is where we're going. And then you can start executing the plan itself. So set up a kickoff meeting just to get everybody on the same page, get feedback. And then again, after you do all of this, you have a viable plan that you can execute. Plan, you execute. Okay. And then the third component of planning is document the plan. So you've done all the planning, you got all the documentation. Now it's time to document the plan itself. So if you need to go back and update the project plan based on feedback, if you have to go and create, a document library, name it, whatever it needs to be. This is where you document the plan. And then you make sure that everybody understands, hey, we're using this tool. If you need to look at a document, it's on this server, and who has access, who has read access, who has read and write access. You bring it all together and you document it. And then that way, now you can actually execute. Okay. I thought I'd talk a little bit about project management tools that you can use for your project plans and your documentation. The ones on the right with the stars, those are pretty much very popular. MS Project is still very popular to use. I still use MS Project, but I also use Smartsheet. Okay, MS Project, I have the desktop version, but they also have an online version that you can use as well. There's Asana. I know a lot of people use Asana. Trello is another one, a very popular one. Monday has become very popular as well. I know that if you want to try some of these different project management software tools online, you can. I know Smartsheet has a 30-day trial, so you can go in there and play around with Smartsheet for a little while. Asana and Trello, they have a free version of their project management software, so you can get used to using their software and planning out your projects itself. Again, there's other project management software tools out there that you can use. These are just the most popular ones people are using. So go out there, look at some of the project management tools that are out there for to track your project and see which ones work well for you. Now, I can say that the only difference between these different project management tools really is the look and feel of it. But basically they all do the same thing, right? If you're a very detailed person, that's why I like to use MS Project and Smartsheet. But if you're a very visual person, you may want to use Asana and Trello, okay? And some of these other ones as well. But make sure that you're in a project management software tool. Like I said before, I used to use, back in the day, Excel. We use Excel for project management to track all the tasks and everything like that. But now with these tools, it becomes much easier to track the project plan itself. You can use dashboards. I know Smartsheet has a dashboard you can create as well. That's all part of your communication. And then it's so much easier. When I was talking about lessons learned, when I was talking about lessons learned, it's so much easier for a person that's doing a project can go back and look at your project plan, look at your communication plan, and pull those information out so they can plan the next project. Also, as a business, you want to pull information from these projects because it's very valuable. One of the things that it helps you do is estimate your projects better, right? Estimate the budget better. It becomes very efficient. But if you're in Excel, you have to create the reports and do all this other stuff. But if you're in a project management tool, you can pull reports very easily from these project management tools so that you can understand what was the cost of this project. Let's look at some of the timeline. Let's look at some of the resources that we use. If you're looking at resources as far as like how many hours, what was the hours for the week that the resources worked, it's much easier to pull those reports so that again you can estimate better. Or if you're just looking at your overall projects, it will give you that information much easier than to do it from Excel, and then you have to create all these different reports. But hey, if you're an Excel expert, more power to you. But it's so much easier to use the project management tools for your project. So why does planning matter? So I found this on YouTube and I want to play it. And it kind of gives you some visuals about why planning matters. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Okay, so hopefully you enjoy that. We've seen what planning does if you don't plan effectively. And when it's done well, it's executed well, and you get the results that you're looking for. Okay, so here are some resources that you can go and learn a little bit more about project management. Oh, let me go back here. The Project Management Institute, again, that is the certification organization that certifies project managers. They also have a Phoenix chapter here. And then also I have a blog as well that talks a little bit about different aspects of training about project management that can help you with your business and have best tips and practices. Here is my contact information. I would love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, either my email address or on social media. And I will turn it back over to Robert.
All right, thank you, Cerila. Great presentation. Planning is so important, and projects I've been on as well. So thank you for sharing this. We are a little over on time, so unfortunately we're not gonna be able to get to the Q&A. There were 2 questions. But please feel free to reach out directly to Cerila, and she left her email, her contact information up there, or you can reach out to us and we will reach out to her to get those questions answered. But we thank you for the time. Great presentation. Thanks everybody for being here today. We look forward to everybody being here with us on Tuesday. But until Tuesday morning, everybody have a great weekend. Be safe and enjoy. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. Bye.